Hi, hello, and welcome to Life Off Script. I'm your host, Yaz, and this is Season 1, Episode 2. This episode is dedicated to anyone moving overseas, to London specifically. I will be going through a pre-London checklist that entails everything that you can't find on a blog, a TikTok, an Instagram post, a Facebook status, dare I say, anything like that. I had a few friends that are moving over to London this year or next, and I sent them this list, and I think it's really helpful, and they've let me know that that's how they feel as well. So that means that it's really good, guys. Okay, let me go through it now. First thing on my pre-London checklist is to make a pre-London checklist, so jot that one down. Okay. Scan all your documents for people who are a bit neurotic, just like me, and feel like, they might lose something at any given moment, God forbid. And so what I did is I scanned everything that I might need when I'm overseas, aka passport, license, things like that, and I kept them in a G drive where my family and some of my friends could access in case I lose anything. So this was more when I was traveling Barcelona, if you know, you know. I was just like, it would be helpful if I had a scanned file that could be sent to me, God forbid anything is lost. 2, remove two-factor authentication and change any apps that you use regularly that use your Australian phone number. This is mostly banking apps, MyGov, Meta, TikTok. If TikTok has two-factor authentication, I would honestly go through each app and double check. I changed mine to my sister's phone number, and that's been so helpful to me. Like, thank you, Saskia. But just FYI, when you come over here, because of the time difference, don't try and log in to anything between the hours of 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. because A, you won't get an answer, and if you do, you'll get an angry message from your sister saying that it's fucking selfish that you have her phone number on your MyGov because it's just woken her up from her sleep. So just have a really good think about whose number you're going to use and whether they're going to send an angry text to you during the day. 3, pause your super. You need to pause your super. It's going to cost money. I think I pay like, $1 a month or something silly. 4, download WhatsApp. I know it's ugly. I know that. You can have 2 phone numbers on there. So if you want, you can keep your Australian phone number and then have your UK phone number on there, and you can be contacted by both. But your actual phone won't let you do that. Just FYI, it's really helpful. 5, about 3 weeks before moving, start talking to recruiters. They can usually jump on things pretty quickly, but if you say, hey, this is all my stuff, please organize it and I am ready to start at this date, it's helpful, and it might make you feel better if you have some like Zoom interviews when you're still in Australia. This one's a bit of a personal preference though. Like I mean, you can do whatever you want, but if you want to get the ball rolling early, I suggest doing that. 6, organize your resume to be equivalent to England qualifications so they understand. So your resume is going to mean absolutely nothing to recruiters and or employers in England. Reason why is they don't understand what VCE means. They don't know what the fuck your ACU qualification means. They couldn't tell you. Do you think they have time to research your university? It's a fat no. Do you think they have time to research what your company does and how it correlates to something similar, another company similar over in the UK? They don't. A hint, they don't. So what you need to do is you basically need to hold their hand and be like, okay, so I've done this. This is equivalent to this in England. I've done this. This is equivalent to this in England. Please hire me. 7. Purchase a Wise card before you leave Australia with enough time to receive the physical card, and this will be the perfect travel card with great exchange rates. Not sponsored, I just love Wise. I think the green really speaks to me. It honestly is a great interim card to have. I have nothing to say about it except that you should get it before you move from Australia, so you have the physical card with you. I would use it for all your travel, and then what I would do is I use it as like an interim before you get your proper card, which would be Revolut or Monzo, because those, I think Revolut doesn't require you to have a fixed home address. You can just like say like, oh, I'm staying here, just send it here. Whereas Monzo might be a bit stricter. 8. Get a travel sim, but don't buy one for longer than 1 week now that you're in the UK. So I would buy one for your travels when you get to Europe or whatever plans you have. But once you settle in London, I would honestly keep that SIM card for like a week, and then I would just transfer over to another UK-based mobile provider, which would be O2, Foxy. I don't know the other ones, but I would just not suggest 3. I think their coverage isn't the greatest, and when you're running around London looking at viewings and, you know, not knowing where you're going and getting a bit stressed out, the worst thing that can really happen is you run out of reception when you shouldn't, or like something just doesn't work. So that's why I don't recommend 3, because that's what happened to me. 9. Portable charger is your best friend. I would highly recommend this. I mean, most people do have portable chargers to begin with anyway, but this is something that just alleviates any stress that you might have about running around London when you're looking at viewings. London's map is best looked at prior to moving. You really want to familiarise yourself with the general places that most people commonly move to, especially expats, especially Australians. I know people will say, oh, don't move to where all the Aussies are, and I can understand that would appeal to most people. I just think in a practical sense, when you make such a massive life decision, it is sometimes better to be around people that are already going through that, or have been through that, or have done so but a bit earlier than you. You know what I mean? And I know people are going to be like, oh, Clapham, you know, Aussie Central. I get that. I understand. Hammersmith, same. Shepherd's Bush, the same. I get it. But I do think there's merit in why people do that. And I think it's helpful. 10, bring a laptop, iPad, something that can accommodate your big move. Not worth relying on your phone. I know, honestly, too many people that have been mugged in the last year. And if you just rely on your phone, you are going to be fucked. This actually happened to me when I first moved. It was my first week in London, and the week before I was in Barcelona, and my phone started just absolutely carking it, and I couldn't fix it. I had to get it fixed, but I had to do it in London. I literally had to print out my map directions and my address and everything because my phone was so bad. When I landed, I literally pulled out, like it was the 90s, I pulled out a little post-it note with my address on there. Super fun. And then the next day I had to find the Apple store. Again, my phone was so bad that it was like I didn't have a phone at all, and I had to catch the bus and hope to God it took me to the right direction, and then use paper maps to get to where I needed to go. I had to find this store, and then when I did, they were like, oh, your phone is so bad, we're going to replace it for free. And I was like, wow, thank you so much. And they were like, just go for like a quick walk around the area because you're in Shoreditch, it's quite a cool area, and come back in like 2 hours. And I was like, cool, I'll do that. Mind you, I'm terrible at directions. I wandered through Shoreditch. If you know Shoreditch, it's really like Melbourne, which is quite cool, but it means little alleyways, and it's just not like one big road where you're like, oh, I can't get lost on this. And then eventually I came back about 3.5 hours later because I finally found the store again. And I rocked up and he was like, oh, we've sent for a replacement, but it's not going to come until tomorrow afternoon. Like, can you get home okay? No, I can't. So again, I had to pray to the gods that I could get on the right bus and get back to my Airbnb. It was just a whole thing. And what saved me was the fact that I had my laptop and everything on that. That's why I suggest bringing something else. I know that most people will, but sometimes there's those strays that just think that they can rely on their phone. No, don't do that. Please don't do that. An interesting fact that my friend mentioned to me when I was in my preparation stage of moving to London, and I found really interesting, and I still love it to this day, is the fact that London goes by specific postcodes. For instance, 3000 is Melbourne's postcode, but that is just huge. That covers so many places within that postcode, right? In London, if I tell you a postcode, you could literally walk up to a building because that's how specific it is. So many people don't really give addresses, they give postcodes instead. A postcode could be SW15 3AB, and that would take you to a building. And so a lot of people will be like, oh, this is my postcode, and then my flat number is da-da-da. Instead of giving their full street address. It's a really interesting little thing that London does, or the UK do rather, and I kind of love it. I really do. I don't know why. It's just such a cute little idea. So that's just to note if someone ever gives you a postcode and you're like, well, what the fuck am I going to do with this? It's actually perfectly fine and will take you exactly where you need to go. I think I'm at 11, so I'm going to go with 11. Book 4 weeks flat or Airbnb or couch surf before you move, because you'll need to use this information when you apply for your visa. They're going to wonder where you're going to stay for the first 4 weeks, really. And what you want to consider when you're looking for a flat Airbnb is if you can walk to a grocery store under 10 minutes, say M&S, Tesco, Asda, Waitrose, Sainsbury's, Lidl. They're the ones you want to look for. And you also want to make sure that you're a 10-minute or less walk to the nearest tube station and that you're a 5-minute walk to the nearest bus stop. They're your kind of non-negotiables. In terms of permanent renting, never organise it without seeing it in person. London is chock full of scams and you will be scammed. I could actually guarantee it if you do it from here, from Australia. Don't do it. Don't do it. I think I'm at 12 now. When you get to London, you might be so excited you just like freak and get a job straight away. I don't recommend this because you'll get stuck in this situation where you've got a job and then you can't go to viewings and find a flat and then you'll be homeless, but you'll have a job. It's just I don't recommend it. Your focus is housing, and I know that's going to come from a privileged point of view, like, you know, oh my God, I need that money. I should find a job first. But it actually will make your life miserable if you get a job first. And if you're moving to London, you should save lots and lots of money, enough money that you can survive without a job for a couple of weeks. You can always start applying for jobs and then saying that your start date is weeks and weeks later. The reason is that it's very common, especially in corporate. I'm going by corporate because that's what I know. In corporate, 3 months notice period is very common. So like if you come in and you're like, oh, I can start the job in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, like, is that okay? They're going to just be stoked that you can do it in a couple of weeks compared to 3 months. You see? 13. Tenants don't have many secure rights in the UK. Property rentals move fast and expect to pay for things you didn't even know existed. It's normal to pay for a 5-week bond, 3 to 6 months rent up front if you don't have a secured job, pay a little offering, around 100 quid approximately. I mean, it's different to each rental, but to secure the offer made to the landlord before signing the contract. That's how it works in England, and London is, honestly, I've never seen anything like it. Just because they don't have a job secured, they might have great, references. It doesn't matter to a landlord. Landlord will ask for 3 months to 6 months rent up front. I know a friend of mine who paid 8 months rent up front, which is insane. 14, bills to pay. We've got council tax. Each borough has a different council tax, so they all pay different rates depending on the borough. Council tax, water bill, electricity, gas, Wi-Fi, they're your standards. Think how much extra that is on top of your rent. And that's how much you really want to save. Have as much savings as you can possibly have. People really underestimate how expensive it is in London. Things can get expensive so fast. There's rent up front, which I've just talked about. Food is expensive. Drinks at the pub are not cheap at all. I mean, rent can be like 800 to 1,000 as a single person. So I would recommend finding a partner before you move so you can save up to 500 quid a month. Like, that is just savings. So I highly recommend shacking up with someone that wants to also move to London. You will just save massive amounts of money. And I wish I did that. I wish I found someone right before I moved, and if I had known that, I would have done it. So that's just a tip of mine. You will save so much money. Food is cheap, really cheap if you cook, but going out, expect to pay 15 quid for restaurant food. Honestly, takeaway is just as expensive as restaurant food, so keep that in mind. Sometimes it's actually better to just go to a fucking restaurant at that point. Drinks at the pub, like I said, singles at 7 to 8 quid. I mean, I'm talking from like gin and tonics, vodka lime sodas point of view. Beers I think are way cheaper. I think they're like 5 to 6 quid, but I think I might be lying on that. I'm gonna have to check. And doubles are 14 to 15 quid, but alcohol is quite cheap if you buy it from the shops. So that's a win. 15, apps to download. You want to download Eventbrite, Songkick, City Mapper, Vinted, Splitwise, Bolt, NHS app, RA Guide, First Table, Forest, Bikes, Lime Bike, Trainline, Dusk, Too Good To Go, Zipcar. Those apps will help you so much in London. I'm just going to go through them really quickly and give you a little summary of each. Eventbrite, events, believe it or not. Songkick, you can transfer your Spotify list over and it will tell you what concerts are around London and around Europe, which is so good if you're like, oh, I can't get tickets in London, but I can get tickets in Amsterdam or whatever. City Mapper, this is what you're going to use instead of Google when you first move here. I think it's great for people that have just moved. Bolt is another version of Uber. It's cheaper, less drivers around, but generally same service as Uber. NHS app, you'll need that. RA Guide is kind of like events, but more like rave and festivals and stuff like that. And Boiler Room, I think. First Table, this will give you 50% off your bill if you book through this app for cool restaurants. I'm talking like, you could get a steak for really cheap. The only condition is that you book either really early, so it's like a 5 p.m. dinner, or it's like a 10 p.m. dinner, but like who cares? It's 50% off your menu. Forest is just like Lime Bike. Trainline is how you get around the UK. Dusk is cheap drinks. Too Good To Go gives you leftovers from like cafes, restaurants, whatever that they can't chuck out or they are going to chuck out but are still good to eat. You can get like cheap deals for like 5 quid. It's so good. And Zipcar is a rental hire app where you just look up on your phone where the nearest car is and you can just Bluetooth open it up and drive. It's so good for when you're missing home and missing a good drive through the streets. Moving to London is a vibe, but it's also a logistical nightmare if you don't have a plan. And these are the things that really made my move smooth. I hope you enjoyed. If you found this helpful, I would love if you could share with your friends who might also be making the move, and you can find me on Instagram at lifeoffscriptpod. Otherwise, a new episode every second Wednesday, and I hope you enjoyed listening. Thank you so much.